By golly, the wins just keep on coming with GameFreak lately, huh? If you're like most players, you've probably felt a bit overwhelmed by the sheer amount of Pokemon games and Pokemon drama from the Switch era, and this was mainly related to the games feeling pretty rushed to fit their annual release. Some were more polished than others, sure, but that doesn't mean they weren't the best they could be. That being said, if you've kept up with the channel in the past, you know that GameFreak has been taking steps to alleviate these issues. We've gotten some wins when GameFreak promised restructures to their operations, and when Pokemon Legends Zeta was revealed to be releasing in 2025, giving us our first year with no mainline Pokemon game release in like a decade. I've explained all this in depth in a previous video, so if you want to know the ins and outs of how that will all benefit Pokemon going forward, I'll link you to that at the end of this video. For now though, we have our most recent accomplishment for our calls to improve Pokemon's quality. That's right, GameFreak is hiring, and I'm not talking just a little bit. I'm talking a lot of it. Last time GameFreak posted a hiring spree was sometime during development for Pokemon Legends Arceus, and that ended up being the most polished full game from them on the Nintendo Switch, so I'd say this is a good sign. Since then, they've steadily grown in size, and this time around they're hiring to fill about 40 roles. Yeah, you heard that right, 40! I have the full list of positions that are currently open, and you can take a look at them in the comment section or in the description of this video, but I want to make it clear that this doesn't mean GameFreak will necessarily be hiring 40 new employees. Several of the roles can definitely be snatched up by single individuals, but with how many roles there are up for grabs, we could still definitely see anywhere between 20 to 30 new hires. Some of these new positions reveal a lot about what to expect from future games, and I'm going to talk about that in a sec because it's huge, but first, I want to stress why this is such a win for us to be getting more GameFreak employees. For those of you who don't know, GameFreak is what most people consider an understaffed operation. For the amount of games they output, GameFreak quite simply has too few employees. Back when Sword and Shield were in development, they had around 140 members. With Pokemon Legends Arceus, they bumped that to about 165 during their first hiring spree in years. Today, as of writing this video, GameFreak currently has grown to about 212 employees. An improvement for sure, but still not quite as much as most development studios. To put this in perspective, Ubisoft is the only other development studio with a release schedule comparable to Pokemon's, and they currently have 20,000 employees. With the number of employees GameFreak has, you'd expect their release schedule to be more like every 3 to 5 years, rather than every year or even every 2 years. And to prove that, we can look at a studio like Platinum Games, who only has about 358 employees, and their release schedule is no less than 3 years apart. Like I mentioned earlier, GameFreak is beginning to stagnate their releases, as proven by Pokemon Legends Zeta's 2025 release, but they're also trying to fill out staff simultaneously. This is all awesome news, whether viewing them separately or together. As for what the roles are that GameFreak is hiring for, a few here are standout, and we absolutely need to talk about them. The first role that I want to discuss is Human Motion, as this is something I've never seen listed in GameFreak's credits, and still have not found during my research today for double checking. That means this will be the first time GameFreak will be using mocap for any of their releases. All previous animations we've seen in their games were created from scratch. I've always wondered why they did this, as they definitely have the funds to spend on motion capture, and it would save them so much time during development. It looks like they're finally getting with the program, and this is huge. A win for the development team, a win for motion capture artists getting work, and a win for us as players since our games we play will have better animations. You'll notice several of the open positions say new IP in parentheses next to them. Yes, this means they're hiring specifically for non-Pokemon games, but don't fret, because this is still good news in that that's less people GameFreak will need to pull from Pokemon's development to fulfill these duties in the Gears department. For those of you who don't know, the Gears department is GameFreak's subsection where employees work on non-Pokemon IPs. Currently, GameFreak is developing something called Project Bloom, and it looks like they want to make it a visual spectacle. So the more they hire to take the workload off of Pokemon devs, the better for both Pokemon and Project Bloom. You'll also notice there's a lot of R&D roles, which stands for research and development, as well as a role for machine learning engineer and a role for procedural technical artists. This is huge because this means GameFreak is investing in research and implementation of worthwhile time-saving strategies for development. The days of seeing blatantly repeated texture squares in the environments or low poly textures on assets in general might be behind us pretty soon, and I couldn't be happier about it. I don't know about you guys. This is one of the few cases where AI can be useful because it actually just removes tedium from development and stops lazy employees from cutting corners in ways that hinder the player experience. Finally, GameFreak is hiring a role for Pokemon models. This caught my eye because currently, GameFreak is not responsible for Pokemon models. Creatures Inc. is. What this means, I'm not entirely sure, but my guess is GameFreak wants someone in-house to specialize in how the Pokemon models work so they can avoid a variety of glitches that could occur with them. It might be a way to cut down the need for out-of-house communication with Creatures Inc. when trying to implement or fix something on the fly. This would essentially make them an in-house liaison, but it just sounds like a weird role to pay someone for full-time, so it could be something entirely different. I have no idea. If you have any ideas, please write them down in the comments section, and I'll happily look it over and discuss. All in all, I'd also love to hear your thoughts on the future of Pokemon and how much you think this news impacts it. Feel free to stick around the channel with my other video I mentioned earlier discussing GameFreak's operational changes. The link is right in front of you. I've been Johto Johnny, and I'll catch you all there.